immediately comes behind Caitlin. Comes behind her. Don't this look like a familiar scene? This looked very familiar. This is Briann January, the coach that's always in the drama when it's involving Caitlin Clark. This is exactly who this is. Come out of the clear blue sky. Poof, she appears. Briann January is right there. Now watch.
There she is again. Same coach, same player, same uncomfortable energy that fans have been pointing out for months now. And this time there's video evidence that's got thousands of people asking the same question. What is actually happening between Briann January and Caitlin Clark?
Go clock, light horn.
To see if the score was before reading of zeros.
It is close.
Man, that's
watching Kelsey Mitchell in that first half.
It's worth the price of entertainment. It's pure entertainment and skill. Third in the league in scoring.
That's the end of the first half from yesterday's game. Caitlin's talking to the refs about a potential buzzer beater, routine stuff, except watch who appears in frame. Briann January comes up right behind her, shadowing her during what should be a simple referee conversation. And if you've been following this situation all season, that moment probably looked very, very familiar. Because this isn't the first time. It's not even the fifth time. There's now a documented pattern of Briann January being physically present in moments involving Caitlin Clark that have absolutely nothing to do with her role as an assistant coach. And fans are starting to connect dots that the Indiana Fever organization clearly doesn't want connected.
White Gold stated this on Twitter during the game. He stated, bro, why is Briann January shadowing Caitlin Clark? She's not even playing. Just because she's having a convo with the refs about Lexi Bucket. Jesus Christ. Somebody else said, P.O. January, watch on Caitlin. You will be sitting again on some Trump-up charges.
Social media caught it immediately. One user posted, why is Briann January shadowing Caitlin Clark? She's not even playing, just having a conversation with the refs about Lexi's bucket. Another wrote, it's like an abusive relationship, controlling, it's so weird. I refuse to watch them this season without CC, scummy coaching staff. That second comment might sound extreme, but here's why it's gaining traction. This isn't about one awkward moment. When you line up the timeline of interactions between January and Clark, a genuinely strange picture starts to emerge. And the more people dig into Briann January's history with the Fever franchise, the more one specific theory keeps coming up.
Is for May. This was back in May, right? Two-time runner-up Caitlin Clark and WNBA assistant coach Briann January shares a quick moment on the bench. We all remember this, right? Oh, yes, we all remember this, right? Look. It's always something. Briann January, I believe she played for the Indiana Fever, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's go back. Briann January played for the Indiana Fever before she became a coach, and according to the franchise records, she was one of their most accomplished players, second all-time in assists, third all-time in minutes played, fourth all-time in points scored. Those are legitimate franchise records. She built a legacy in Indiana across multiple seasons. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Caitlin Clark arrived as the biggest draft pick in WNBA history, instant franchise player, generational talent, all the attention and all the expectations. And within her first season and a half, she's already threatening or breaking multiple franchise records, including the ones that Briann January spent years building.
Oh, this is why she hates Caitlin Clark. So she was second all-time in assists, second all-time in steals, third all-time in minutes played, fourth all-time in points. Oh! Briann January is one of the the franchise most dynamic players, and she's returning to Indiana as an assistant coach. Oh!
So the theory that's exploding right now is this. Briann January resents Caitlin Clark because Clark is erasing her legacy in real time. She's watching a 22-year-old rookie come in and dismantle the statistical achievements that defined her entire career with the franchise. And whether consciously or subconsciously, that resentment is showing up in how she coaches, how she positions herself around Clark, and how the team's defensive schemes are being run. Now, before anyone says that's speculation, let's look at what's actually verifiable. Briann January is the defensive coordinator for the Indiana Fever. That's her primary responsibility. And just last week, Stephanie Curry, another player on the roster, said this on a podcast.
Sophie Cunningham saying this on our podcast.
We are not going to win very many games when people score 100 points on us. And they average, I think, around 80 points, and we let them score like 111. Our defense is horrible, and I think everyone knows that.
Okay.
Guess who runs the defense, everybody?
We are not going to win very many games when people score 100 points on us. The average, I think, is around 80 points, and we let them score like 111. Our defense is horrible, and I think everyone knows that. That's a player publicly saying the defense is broken, not struggling, not needs work. Horrible. And who runs the defense? Briann January, the same coach who's been with head coach Stephanie White through this entire stretch. The Fever are giving up 111 points in games where the league average is around 80. That's not a bad night, that's a systematic failure. And it's happening under January's watch as the defensive coordinator.
Briann, shut it up. Austin, shut it up.
Look.
Here goes Twitch anyway. Anyway. Oh my gosh, this coach is unstable, man. And look at Briann January. Briann, shut it up. Austin, shut.
But the on-court results are only part of the story. The other part is the pattern of physical interactions that keep getting caught on camera. There's the moment from May when Briann January and Caitlin Clark had what was described as a quick moment on the bench after a game. The broadcast framed it as friendly. Fans who watched it frame it very differently. Then there's the incident from last season that a lot of people forgot about until this week. Briann January allegedly stepped on Caitlin Clark's ankle during a practice or shoot-around, an injury that some believe contributed to Clark not being able to finish the season at full strength. Now, was that intentional? There's no proof either way. But when you're already asking questions about someone's behavior, old incidents start getting re-examined in a new light.
Y'all know what y'all favorite homeboy like to say. What do John Liquidator always tell you? The internet will give it, and the internet will take it away, bruh. This is exactly what has happened with the Indiana Fever, dog. Briann January's back in the front of the damn congregation, bruh. Now,
And then there's the bigger organizational question. Why is Briann January still in this position? If the defense is statistically one of the worst in the league, if players are publicly saying it's horrible, if fans are documenting uncomfortable interactions on a weekly basis, why hasn't the front office made a change? One possibility is that Stephanie White, the head coach, is protecting her. January has been with White since the beginning of her tenure. They have a working relationship that predates this season. White may believe that January's struggles are fixable, or she may not see the same red flags that fans are seeing. But the other possibility, the one that's harder to talk about, is that the organization doesn't see Caitlin Clark as the untouchable franchise cornerstone that the rest of the basketball world sees her as.
Second, why we're replaying this last couple seconds from yesterday's game. Let's roll it.
One of the best three-ball shooters in the league out on the floor, and Sophie Cunningham. They'll have
Now, this was the conclusion of the first half of yesterday's game. Now, I missed this because I did not watch the game. So had I watched the game, I would have caught this sooner, but I did not watch this specific game. Now, why?
Because here's the uncomfortable truth that keeps coming up in these conversations. Caitlin Clark is the biggest draw in women's basketball. She's selling out arenas, she's driving television ratings, she's bringing in fans who have never watched the WNBA before. And yet, the Indiana Fever's coaching staff, particularly Briann January, keeps being described by fans as treating her like she's the problem. There's a comment that keeps circulating. They all want to play hard when Caitlin isn't playing, but then absolutely play like trash when she plays because they know she'll get all the blame anyway. That's a specific accusation. It's saying that there's a deliberate effort, either from players or coaches or both, to make Caitlin Clark look bad by underperforming when she's on the court. Now, is that provable? No. But the fact that it's a recurring theory among people who watch every game suggests there's something in the team's body language and effort level that's creating that perception.
It's the bad when she plays because they know she'll get all the blame anyway. Somebody else said, I don't like Briann January. I don't either. Hate that lady January with a passion. Seems to me there's a bunch of malpractice going on. But whatever the case may be, bruh.
And perception matters in professional sports. If your fan base, the people who are actually paying to watch your games and buy your merchandise, believes that your coaching staff is sabotaging your best player, that's a crisis. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. Once that narrative takes hold, it affects everything. Ticket sales, viewership, team morale, free agency, players around the league are watching this. If you're a free agent next year and you're deciding where to sign, are you going to Indiana, where the franchise seems unable or unwilling to protect its generational talent from internal dysfunction? The business stakes here are real. The WNBA is in the middle of a growth moment. Caitlin Clark is a massive part of that growth. The Indiana Fever are positioned to be one of the league's flagship franchises if they handle this correctly. But if they mismanage the Clark era, if they let internal politics or ego or whatever this is derail the trajectory of a generational player, they're not just hurting themselves, they're hurting the league's ability to capitalize on this moment.
Who's been with Stephanie White the whole way? Briann January. Do you guys see a similar photo here? Because I definitely see a similar picture. This is the sabotage like no other, bro. This is the sabotage like no other. I can promise you. Briann January is the cancer in the locker room and the cancer within the coaching staff. She is, bro. She is.
Now let's talk about what happens next, because this situation is reaching a breaking point. The Fever are not making the playoffs unless something changes dramatically. The defense is statistically broken, the fan base is openly calling for coaching changes, and Caitlin Clark, the player who's supposed to be the foundation of this franchise for the next decade, is stuck in the middle of what increasingly looks like a toxic situation. The front office has three options. 1, they make a coaching change mid-season. That's rare, but it happens when the situation is untenable. They could move Briann January to a different role, bring in a new defensive coordinator, and try to salvage the season. 2, they wait until the off-season and clean house then. That's the safer political move, but it means writing off this entire season and hoping the dysfunction doesn't permanently damage Caitlin Clark's development or her relationship with the organization. Or 3, they do nothing, decide that the fans are overreacting, and run it back with the same staff next year.
Caitlin's breaking all her damn records. Oh, she's going to be one behind Caitlin. Whoa! Is this why she hate Caitlin? I think I cracked the Da Vinci Code. Damn. She was second, third. Caitlin's finna straight. She's probably already broken all her damn records. Oh my God, guys.
Option 3 is organizational malpractice, but it's also the most common response in professional sports. Front offices hate admitting mistakes. They hate the optics of a mid-season coaching change. They'll convince themselves that the fans don't understand the full picture, that the coaching staff just needs more time, that the problems will solve themselves. And by the time they finally admit there's a real issue, the damage is done. The Briann January situation is a test case for how the WNBA handles internal conflict in the age of social media and heightened scrutiny. 10 years ago, this stays in-house. The awkward interactions don't get clipped and circulated. The defensive struggles get blamed on talent, not coaching. The fans complain in message boards that nobody reads. But in 2024, every moment is documented. Every pattern gets analyzed. Every uncomfortable interaction gets 50,000 views on Twitter within an hour. The old playbook of ignoring it and waiting for it to blow over doesn't work anymore.
A buffoonery. I can assure you that. And we have even more buffoonery. Now I know what some of y'all are thinking. Y'all are thinking, John, why is we pulling the game back up from yesterday? I'm finna show you in a brief.
And here's the part that should genuinely worry the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark has leverage. She's not a role player hoping to stick on a roster. She's the franchise. If she decides 2 or 3 years from now that she wants out, that the organization failed to put a competent staff around her, that she's tired of being undermined or mismanaged, or whatever word you want to use, she can force a trade. And the Fever will have no choice but to comply, because keeping an unhappy superstar is worse than trading them. We've seen this movie before in the NBA. We've seen it in the NFL. A franchise drafts a generational talent, fails to build the right infrastructure around them, and then acts shocked when that player demands out. The WNBA is not immune to that dynamic. And if the Fever let the Briann January situation fester, if they prioritize internal politics over putting their best player in a position to succeed, they're setting themselves up for that exact scenario.
They're so lame. They all want to play hard when Caitlin isn't playing, but then absolutely play like it.
So what's the actual answer here? What should the Fever do? The cleanest solution is to move Briann January out of the defensive coordinator role and into a position where she's not directly responsible for game planning or in-game decisions. You can keep her on staff if there's value there, but you remove her from the situation that's creating all this tension. You bring in a defensive coordinator with a proven track record, someone who doesn't have any personal history with the franchise, and you give them full authority to rebuild the defensive system from scratch. That's the smart move. It protects Caitlin Clark, it addresses the on-court failures, and it gives the organization a clean narrative. We identified a problem, we fixed it, we're moving forward. But smart moves require admitting mistakes, and admitting mistakes requires humility. And humility is not exactly abundant in professional sports front offices.
Let me know your thoughts about this. Be sure to turn up the video, click the hype button. Y'all know we don't get as many hypes as everybody else.
The other layer to this, the one that nobody wants to talk about directly but everyone's thinking, is whether there's a generational or cultural component to the tension. Briann January is a veteran of the league, someone who played in an era when the WNBA was fighting for survival, when players were making poverty-level wages, when the infrastructure and attention were a fraction of what they are now. Caitlin Clark represents the new era, the era of massive television deals and sold-out arenas and mainstream media coverage. There's a natural tension there, a feeling among some veterans that the new generation is reaping benefits they never had access to. That tension exists across the league, not just in Indiana. But in Indiana, it's playing out in a very specific and very visible way, because Caitlin Clark is the face of that new era, and Briann January is a direct representative of the old one. And if January, consciously or not, resents what Clark represents, that's going to show up in how she coaches her, how she talks to her, how she positions herself around her. You can't fake respect, you can't fake belief. And if the coaching staff doesn't genuinely believe in Caitlin Clark as the franchise cornerstone, the players will pick up on that, and the whole thing falls apart.
Look, and then they'll pull out clips like this, but this was from last year. So this was from last year. Now, I do want to let y'all know Briann January is the same coach that stepped on Caitlin Clark's ankle and messed up her ankle, the reason why she could not finish the season last year. And then we got, just a week ago, Sophie Cunningham saying this.
Which brings us back to the clip from the end of the first half. Briann January, shadowing Caitlin Clark during a routine referee conversation, inserting herself into a moment that had nothing to do with her. On its own, it's just an awkward moment. But in the context of everything else, the defensive failures, the old injuries, the franchise records being broken, the fan theories, the social media documentation, it's a symbol of a much bigger problem. The Indiana Fever are mismanaging the Caitlin Clark era in real time. And unless something changes soon, they're going to look back on this period as the moment they lost control of their own franchise. Because the internet gives, and the internet takes away. Right now, Caitlin Clark has the internet's full support. The Fever do not. And in 2024, that's not a perception problem you can ignore. So here's the question for you. Is this a coaching problem, a front office problem, or a cultural problem? Is Briann January the issue, or is she just the most visible symptom of a deeper dysfunction? Drop your take in the comments. And if you've been following this situation all season, hit the like button so we know this is the kind of breakdown you want to see more of. Subscribe if you haven't already, because this story is nowhere near over. The Fever's season is on the line. Caitlin Clark's future with the franchise might be on the line, and we're going to be covering every development as it happens.